Okay, hello again, everyone. We're ready to get started now with our ActiLife basic tutorial. I'd like to first thank everybody for coming on and joining us today. Our lead software developer, or one of our lead developers rather, with the ActiLife product. Today we're going to be doing a basic tutorial of ActiLife. He's going to be presenting that. I'm going to be doing the moderator functions, which means I'll be taking questions. In your webinar software, we noticed that this control panel will automatically collapse during the presentation. So we have a slide here just to show you that there's a little arrow you can use to expand that back out. We do welcome any questions along the way. I know I've already got a few questions in here. I'll be working to answer questions during the presentation. We will get all questions today. Some of them we might answer verbally during or via the typing in the answer. Some of them we may choose to get back with you after the presentation. But please ask questions. What we have planned should take about 45 minutes. We did a presentation this morning and it took a little longer than that. We're going to try to hold it to about 45 minutes so that those of you who have other things scheduled, you know, we don't run over. After we complete the presentation, of course, we're going to work to archive this in our webinars location on our website. And the last note here is that it is listen only. So we're going to be presenting, we're going to be reading your questions as they come through, and but there won't be any verbal questions. Okay, so more about questions. Once again, type in those questions and we'll take a look at them because your feedback is important. More about feedback. After the webinar is complete, we're going to send out a survey via email, and we would really appreciate your comments and even additional questions in that survey. Okay, so I'm ready now to turn things over to Derek, and he's going to take you through these features in the ActiLife tool.
Sorry, should have this all done. Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Derek Gates. I'm a software developer on ActiLife. Hopefully everyone can hear well. We were using the telephone earlier and we were having trouble with audio. So if there's any problems with volume, too loud, too low, please let Brian know through the question panel. Okay, so we have started ActiLife 6.1 with a clean install. So on a clean install, after you enter your product key, you will see this defaults. This is just mainly to decide if you're going to use English units or metric units, and any other just basic information that you will need for where you reside. So I'm going to accept this, and you will always see this welcome dialog whenever we release a major version of ActiLife. New in this version, we have GPS correlation, we have batch processing speed increases, and we have merging. And I will be touching on all of those features during this webinar. So this is the main window of ActiLife. Everything is separated into tabs, which are these areas up here. And what I'm going to try to do during this demo is just go through a normal run through of the software and how to get data out of devices and how to look at that data. So right now we don't have any devices plugged in. You'll see this image right here that says plug in a USB device, and we have some devices that we will be plugging in right now so that you'll see what it looks like. And ActiLife will just pick these up, and you'll see these in the grid. We have two GT3X pluses. You'll see their serial number here, what their status is, if they're ready, if they finished doing anything, the current firmware they're running, their battery levels. This is only important if it's too low to send out to a subject or too low to operate on. You'll see their memory, the amount of data they have recorded right now. These devices have nothing on them because we've been using them for demos, so we've been clearing out the data every time. And a bunch of more information that you'll see more as we initialize and download these devices. So the very first thing that I would do to use these devices and hand them to a subject is what's called initialize. And initialization just clears the device and gets it ready for collecting data on a subject. So after I've selected the devices that I want to operate on, which is these checkboxes here, I'll go up to the Initialize button, and you'll see a dialog pop up with the options for what you want this device to do after you hand it off. So we have a sample rate here. We recommend 30 hertz. That's pretty much I guess the gold standard. You can grab more data if you want to use some of these other sample rates, but in this demo we're just going to use 30. You'll see these options right here for flashing the LED during delay mode. And delay mode is if you set a start time in the future. The delay mode on the device will be when the device is waiting for that start. So for instance, if I put this to 12 a.m., the device will blink until 12 a.m. I guess this needs to be the next day. So on Wednesday at 12 a.m., the device will start collecting data. So I'm going to go ahead and accept this because this looks good. The stop time is optional, and for this demo, we're just not going to set one. So what that means is the device will collect data until the battery runs out. So after you click this, you'll see subject data. And really all this is for is to keep track of what the device is collecting for. So whenever you plug it in at a later date, you can figure out, this was the subject name, this is, the birth date, the height, the weight, and it helps you whenever you're trying to use the data at a later point. So for this demo, I'm going to leave the top, everything as defaults except for this subject name, and I'm going to make these match because this is the only part that is actually required. You can use the serial number using these helpful buttons down here. You can use what is on the device currently, or you can clear everything all at once. And this looks fine to me. None of these are required, so I'm going to click Initialize. And you'll see these devices went through initialization, and now they say Finish Initialization or Initializing. So at this point, the devices are ready to unplug, hand off to whoever needed to use the devices for your research. You're ready to go. If these devices do not say finished with the operation that you just completed, it is not a good idea to unplug them and hand them off because you are not sure of what the devices are going to be doing when you hand them off. So make sure these say finished. And say I hand these off, I'm ready to get them back, and I want to get data off of them. Well, that will be download, and we're actually going to switch the devices to one that has data on it, because otherwise we'd show nothing, which is not helpful. Do you want me to disconnect the other two, or do you want to just... Oh no, this one's good. So Brian just plugged in his GT3X Plus, which he has been wearing for quite a bit of time. Currently he has 4 days and 20 hours of data recorded, which is a good bit that we will be able to see some data on compared to the other initialized devices. So I'm going to go up here to download. I've only checked Brian's device. And this dialog has a lot of options. It looks pretty scary. Really, all it's for is where do you want this to be downloaded? This defaults to the My Documents ActiLife folder. And then what do you want to call the file? The default is just the serial number and the download date. But you can switch this to any other of the predefined, or you can even prompt every download if you want to, number them or whatever you need to do for your research. We're not going to get into clinical reports on this webinar, but this area right here is very important. What will come off these devices on a GT3X Plus or an ActiSleep Plus is raw data, and that'll be just a GT3X file. Now that file you cannot do any analysis on. What you need to do is have an AGD file, and whenever we download these devices we can go ahead and create the AGD file so that we can analyze it in ActiLife. Now the AGD has a little bit different options. You're not going to see the sample rates that you saw on the devices. It's actually going to summarize into a default of 10 seconds. Now I'm going to go ahead with 10 seconds so I can show later that we're going to switch this into a different epoch length.
We did have a question come in, Derek, about how to basically initialize a device with a GT3X Plus device to collect data in 1 second epochs, when all they saw was the 30 hertz option in initialization. The answer is that in initialization for these devices, 30 hertz or the sample rate in hertz is what you do during initialization. But what Derek is showing you now is how you can create a 1 second or a 10-second data file from that download.
Yes. So if you wanted a 1 second data file, you would use just 30 hertz on the device and go to 1 second whenever you're downloading. Now this 1 second, you can go up to 10, you can go up to 60, you can even go to 120. You just can't go back down. The data you can't unsummarize the data. So for this demo, I'm just going to use 10. I could use 1 second. It really does not matter. I'm going to leave this on 3 axes because our GT3X Plus is a tri-axis accelerometer, or it has a tri-axis accelerometer on it. I'm going to leave all these on defaults. This is steps, lux is light, and the anclometer. You'll notice that down here we have all the biometric information that Brian has entered when he initialized his device. This is not only helpful to store in the AGD, but it's also just a good thing to check, am I grabbing the right device? And this is Brian's device, so this looks good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and download, and you'll see the device is performing this action. Right now it is downloading the raw file, and right after this step it's going to create the AGD file so that we can use it in ActiLife. Okay, so the device has finished, and now I have a convenient link to view the AGD. And whenever I click this button, this window will come up. This is called our AGD file viewer, and this will give you a quick summary on any AGD you might have on your system or that you've downloaded from devices on your system. So if you have any AGDs anywhere on your system, you can double click on them and this will open up. So we can see all the axes data down here. You can switch this into cut points, which these are configurable in options. You'll see all the basic information about the device. You'll see that biometric information that I talked about earlier. And you can also dig into this AGD a little bit further with this show data button, which will show breakdowns on each day and then each hour. So right here we have unfortunately nothing, but you can start seeing lux, and I don't know where there's actual data. Here's some axes data. So you can verify that the subject has data from the device. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, I forgot to mention this. If you want to convert this AGD into another file format, there is a link right here. You can export to CSV, which can easily go into Excel or other programs. You can do a data table CSV, which is a CSV but with timestamps. You can go to a DAT file, which there is no reason to go to a DAT file. This is our old legacy format for ActiLife 4, but we provide it just in case you have a mixed environment. Or you can reintegrate to the larger epic I was speaking of earlier. So if this was a 1 second AGD and you wanted to go to a 10, you can do it here. You can also go to, say, a 60-second AGD, or any one of the options. So I'm going to go ahead and make a 60-second just to show what this does. And it will create this in the same folder that this AGD was located on. So I'm going to get out of this. Everything looks good to me. It looks like we got data off the device. And at this point, I want to visualize this data. I saw the numbers in the grid, but I want to see it visually. So we have a tab for that. It's the graphing tab. And this tab starts with nothing right now. So right now I'm going to go into selecting the data set. This will default to the downloads folder, which currently on this installation is in my documents. I'll see the 10-second one that I made. This is the device serial number and the date created. So I open this up. And visually I can see that Brian was not very active during this time until I guess around 6:15, somewhere around there.
Initialized.
Yeah, yes, initialized. I can see more data in this day. I can see data in this day. And these periods of nothing either are the device is off of him or just no activity at all. So all the axes can be turned on and off. I can go down to just one axis. This axis 1 is actually used in a lot of papers that we have with our devices. And so I can also use what's called vector magnitude, which is the sum of all axes. Is that correct?
The square root of the sum of the squares of axis 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. So vector magnitude, this VM, is also used elsewhere in ActiLife, and so that's what it means. You can visualize it here. You can turn it off. You can also turn on lux if you wanted to see light in different areas. You can turn on steps. And unfortunately, we do not have heart rate on this data file because this device does not have heart rate support. For that, you would need an Acti trainer and the polar heart strap. Is that what it's called? And we also have inclometer. And there is a legend for all of these items. So that is graphing. Really useful if you want to see what an AGD contains visually instead of just seeing counts. So at this point, I have my AGD. I've visualized it, but I want to perform research on just the periods of activity. I don't want anything that Brian wasn't wearing the device or his activity level wasn't to a cut point that I would like to perform research on. So at this point, we would need to go into wear time validation. The whole point of this tab is to ensure that ActiLife will only use portions of an AGD that are wear time validated. So I'm going to add my file again. And the wear time validation and data scoring tabs can use any epic length files. So don't worry that they have to be 10 seconds or 60 seconds. You can use anything in here. And so this file is added. You can always verify a file by clicking on it. The AGD file viewer will pop up. This is what you've seen before. And so this is the same file. I'm good to go. And just running it with the defaults, you will see Brian had 8 wear periods and 7 non-wear periods. And a bunch more information about the wear periods over here. I mean, you have averages and percentages. You can view details on these wear and non-wear periods per day. You can also view when ActiLife detected a wear period and a non-wear. And you can enforce ActiLife to override these options. So if you see this non-where and it's on a date range you actually do want to use, you would check this box. And this would instruct ActiLife to ignore what it calculated as a non-where and use it anyway. I'm not going to do that for this demo because it's a non-where. But if you ever need that control, this is where you would do it. There are more options to control the where time validation. If any of these options are confusing, we have links which will pop up a very thorough web guide on what all these options mean. They will probably mean a lot more to you than they do to me. But the defaults are let's see. A non-where period will begin after 60 minutes of consecutive zeros, which means if the device just did not see anything for 60 minutes, that will be instantly a non-where period. We will be using vector magnitude, which will be using all axes instead of just axis 1. This is good if the orientation of the device isn't always perfect for axis 1. You can set an activity threshold, which would be the counts for, I think that's a where period, correct, Brian?
Activity threshold would change basically the first line where it says consecutive zeros. It would change the threshold from 0 to some other value that you wanted to set other than 0.
Okay.
Your minimum activity threshold.
Okay.
So by default, we just use 0, but you can change it there.
Yes, and spike tolerance.
Okay, the spike tolerance, one thing is just to clarify what we mean by spike, if I can verbally. A spike, think of a spike as an instantaneously high value. Maybe there's an hour's worth of zeros, but just one epoch in that hour has some high value of counts or some value for counts. This could happen if the device was just sitting on a table or a desk. It usually doesn't indicate valid where. So there's a certain spike tolerance by default. Now I know that's kind of an abbreviated answer, but that's what we mean by spike tolerance. We also have a link down here to say where did we get our defaults from.
Yes.
Some more information.
And then after ActiLife determines non-where, for filtering even further, there are these options down here. So if there is a where period less than 10 minutes and that is not valid in your mind, you can use this option to say anything less than 10 minutes is not a where period. Or if the entire day has wear time less than a certain amount of minutes, you can invalidate it as well. So whenever you do wear time validation, that validation is stored in the AGD. So you only have to do this once per AGD, or if you want to change the wear time for a file. So this is not something you have to do every single time you open ActiLife. These settings will be stored. So now I have wear time. I am confident that I am going to be analyzing the data in the file that I want. So at this point, I can go to data scoring. And the whole point of data scoring is this is based on customer feedback where they want batch processing on files and be able to export a lot of analysis or just raw data on these files. So right now there are no files in here. And you'll notice there are a lot of columns. This is a lot of information on these files that you can obtain. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove all columns. I'm also going to turn off all these algorithms just so I can show what happens whenever you turn things on. I'm going to add my 10-second data set that you guys have been seeing. And you'll notice that I can click on this. I can see the AGD viewer just to verify. I have my subject name that was from the device and in the AGD. And I have already wear time validated it. So right now this doesn't tell me much information. It only starts telling me information once I turn on some of these algorithms. So I can calculate energy expenditure, and this will enable some columns. I can turn on METs. Oh, and all of these do have multiple algorithms under them, quite a bit. I can turn on cut points, which I can choose any of the predefined cut points, or I can choose my own.
I had a customer asking about cut points.
Okay.
So continue on.
So cut points, you can create your own cut points. If you do one here, you can say this is my demo cut point, and you can enter all of the, it's count based, right?
Counts per minute.
Yeah, counts per minute, and you can add multiples. I think this is infinite, correct?
Yeah, I don't know that there's a limit. Typically 6 or 8 cut points, and these cut points define the different categories of activity intensity. So you can use one that's been validated already with our device, as shown on the left, or you could create your own custom cut point set.
I'm going to move this microphone. Okay. Yeah, so for the purposes of this demo, I'm not going to go through actually creating a cut point, but these other ones are already created. You can view them here in case you're not familiar with the paper they are from. And we do have a link on where these actually came from. And these they should all have links to the original papers. So if you need more information on these cut points, you can click on that link, go to some of these papers, and understand them a little bit better. So for this demo, I'm just going to use the defaults. I'm also going to turn on bouts. And I was told today bouts, the algorithm for bouts is the inverse of what wear time validation does. So how wear time validation is calculated for non-wear periods, that's how bouts are detected. And you can control how the algorithm works using all of these values. So just think in the inverse of wear time validation if that helps. You can also use vector magnitude as well, and that will use all 3 axes. So at this point, with energy expenditure, METs, cut points, and bouts, I have quite a bit of columns that were added. Now, if we had HREE data, which currently is only available on the ActiTrainer with a polar strap, or our upcoming WGT3X Plus, which we'll talk about at the end of this webinar, I would be able to use HREE. But unfortunately, the GT3X Plus does not have this data. I can also use a date and time filter. And a good example of this is if I wanted to ensure that I used the weekdays. And this will take precedence over wear time validation and say anytime on the weekday during the start and stop time I want to include. Yes. So if the wear time validation has excluded any data in this area, this filter will say include it. So an example of this is, say I'm researching preschoolers. I know when they go to recess or they're on the playground, I can enter the start and stop time during the weekdays, when they would be at school. So this might be definitely not 12 a.m. So maybe 8 to 10. I can accept this, and this will ensure
You're only going to see the data in that time range.
Oh, only the data in that time range?
When you put a date time filter, it means that's the data you want to actually see.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. So, excuse me, let me correct that. This filter is only going to show the data from this filtered range. Sorry for the confusion on that. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to enable that for this demo. I just wanted to show you guys that that was there. And this checkbox right here, if you've done wear time validation, if this checkbox is enabled, it will use wear time validation. So when we're excluding non-wear times, this means the wear time validation that we've already done on this file, it will exclude the non-wear times that have already been calculated. So this looks good.
Let's see if we can add more than one data set here, so we can show that we can process a whole batch of data at once.
Yes. So we do have some other files.
I think you should go get the ones we have in the folder.
Yes, okay. Give me 1 second and I'll add these other files.
I'd like to use the ones we have in this folder because the weight has been entered, which will save us some time, because to process energy expenditure, you have to enter a weight value into the data set. And if we spent the time doing that, it would take a while. So.
Yes. So I'm going to add these files. ActiLife pretty much instantly adds them. And I see all these columns based on the algorithms I've used. And we do have many more columns to go through. If you want any data on all of these other columns, you are more than welcome to check any of them, all of them, none of them, or go back to the defaults if you want to see what ActiLife came with. We're going to go ahead and enable that, which is going to drastically add columns down here. So currently all the columns are empty. And what ActiLife is waiting on is for you to get ready with the algorithms and hit calculate down here. Whenever you click calculate, ActiLife is going to go through these files, run all the algorithms, calculate all of the columns that you enabled, and display them in this grid. You can think of calculate as a preview button for the export. So after I go through all of this data, I can verify all the time in my cut points look correct. I can see my average counts on each axis. I can see the counts per minute. So on and so forth. There's plenty of data. Now this looks good to me. I'm ready to export so that I can do further analysis in Excel. And whenever I'm ready to do that, I will click the export button. And we provide a bunch of options on export. You can choose as much or as little that you would want. Currently the defaults will spit out definitions, the summary breakdown worksheet as a tab in Excel, daily and hourly breakdowns, and you can optionally choose on the non-wear hours and days. You can do calculated sleep, and you can also export the grid, which is what you see here, into a CSV file. I'm happy with the defaults, so I'm going to click export. And at this point you choose a file name where you want the file to go. We're just going to use one that we were using previously. And this will start exporting. This is usually much quicker than calculating. And this will launch Excel for you. The first tab that you'll see in Excel is just the variables, and this is just a clone of what you used to do the calculation. So if you have this Excel sheet and you ever wonder, what did I use to get these values, you can go to the first worksheet. Now as we go through, you can see hourly data on each of the data sets. If I scroll down far enough, you can see the other data sets. You can see the daily summaries on all the data sets. You can see the overall summary, which will look very similar to the grid. You can see bout information, wear time validation, in and out of bout, and the definitions. Now we don't have all the definitions listed. I think in the next version we'll have all these done. But the most complicated ones will be listed here in case you have to hand this off to somebody not familiar with ActiLife. So this looks good to me. I can hand this off to somebody else. They can analyze it and do further studies on the data, and they do not have to have ActiLife, which is very nice. So should I show GPS at this point?
Sure, why don't you do that?
Okay. So some of the newer features in 6.1 are customer requests. We have a GPS correlator, and what this is useful for is if you want to map energy expenditure to GPS data points. We currently support Garmin and QStars, and in this demo I'm going to be using a QStars demonstration. So you get started with the GPS correlator, choosing a AGD file. And I'm going to choose one of my coworkers' run that he has done around our office. And here is his AGD. And then you'll choose, I have a Q star, and you'll navigate to the Q star's output. And whenever you get one of these devices, the software that comes with the GPS unit will be able to export the files that ActiLife can read. So I have the data inside. I have the GPS data as well. I want to output a CSV so that I can look at it in Excel. And we have support for a KMZ. And a KMZ is a file that can be opened in Google Earth and other mapping software. And what this will do is map the GPS coordinates and energy expenditure as intensity dots are what they look like. So it's an intensity map of somebody's energy correlated with GPS. So that looks good to me. I can choose my cut points. If you have a custom cut point, you can enter it here. You can also create a cut point as well. I'm just going to go with the default because that's what we've been using throughout this whole demo. And I would like to view it in Google Earth. So I'm going to click Correlate, and it will say, where do you want to put this? I'm going to choose an existing file. This will run through the GPS and the AGD file. And Google Earth will zoom in. I've sped that up so it won't take forever. And give you this view. Now these dots are intensity level and at each GPS point that was recorded by the Q-STARS unit. So the more intense the red, the higher the intensity. I think these are related to the each cut point section, right? Each color is each cut point. Okay. So if that is not enough, you can click on these and view the cut point and the intensity level as well as the counts per minute, so you can verify what ActiLife thought that the activity level was for that point. You can also zoom in, which is what I'm going to do here just to show how many points Matt had throughout the office, some low energy expenditure all the way up into his run, which went into high energy expenditure. Very useful if you have this kind of setup. The GPS correlator can also open the folder for you. Right now I'm not going to show that, but it does provide that option. Speaking of the folder viewing, if you ever need to get to your downloads folder, if you forgot where ActiLife has its default, you can go up to communication and show download folder, and this will launch it so you can see the AGDs that you have imported from devices easily. So another one of our new features in 6.1 is merging of AGDs. And this request was made by customers whenever they have duplicate AGDs for a subject. Now that might not make sense until you think that maybe one device ran out of batteries before the study had ended, and so another device was handed to the subject. Well, at that point, it'd be very useful to have all of the data from both devices in one AGD for easy analysis in ActiLife. So I'm going to run through that process. You select the first AGD, say from device 1, and then you'll select the other AGD, say from device 2. The merger will analyze the AGDs and show you if there is a conflict on the overlapping. Now for this demo, yes, there is a conflict. So what you will have to do is decide which device data or AGD will take precedence at this point. And for this demo, I'm going to choose the right data set, which is data set 2, the red data set right here, because if this was a real-world situation, it would probably mean that device or data set 1, the device battery was running out. So I'd rather use the device information from the device that had a good battery. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And this right here asks, what serial number do you want to report in the AGD? Usually this will be the device that you started with. You might have logs of the first device. So let's go ahead and use that. And at this point we can merge. And this will ask, where do you want to put the resultant AGD? And that AGD is a new file. The other two files, your data set 1 and 2 are not touched. So do not worry about merging and impacting any files that you have on your system. This will create a brand new one. So I'm going to overwrite a file that we had there. And this takes a few seconds, and then you'll have your file created. So that was one of our many requests. Now, if there are any features for GPS or merging that you would like to see, we are more than welcome to hear the suggestions. We're driven by customer feedback on these kind of things. So, if this is useful features to you, please let us know, and we'll be sure to develop them more. Now, what are we doing? How are we doing on time, Brian?
We're at about 40 to 45 minutes. So
do we have?
I think we should probably open the sleep analysis and just
check
things out.
Okay, so the last sections of ActiLife are sleep, and we're not going to go too in-depth in sleep. If you're a sleep researcher, I believe we have other webinars that go more in-depth with sleep. I'm going to show an overview of sleep. And we used Megan. Now, sleep and PLM do require a specific epoch length, which I believe is 60-second, right?
It used to be. I'm not sure if that's still the case, but let's go with that.
Yeah, if you open a AGD that it's not compatible with, it will ask you to reintegrate, which is what I was showing in the beginning of the webinar. So currently, I'm just going to delete all sleep periods. And this is called a dual plot graph. And what it is attempting to show is a 48-hour period. And the reason for that is usually patients will be sleeping in the middle of this graph, which is around midnight. So it just allows you to see their sleep periods and create cut points easier.
Yeah, straight down.
Yes, yeah, sorry, straight down. So you'll see that this is the same as the previous day, this is the same as the previous day. So to add sleep periods for analysis, we can click over here to add a sleep period. I'm just going to use the defaults, 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. That sounds like a normal sleep period. And you notice that it gets filled in with a pink area. And whenever you add a sleep period, it's actually going to do analysis, which is over here. You'll have the in bed, out of bed, the efficiency, the amount of awakenings, all this kind of information that you can dive further into. We also have a feature for auto-scoring on ActiSleep Plus devices. And what this will do is if you do not want to enter sleep periods one by one through a sleep log that a patient has given you, you can use auto-score, and ActiLife will attempt to determine the sleep periods to the best of its detection. So these all look just about right, and I can gather sleep information on each period that it generated, and these will also be saved in the EGD. So if you've entered any sleep periods or used auto-scoring, you only have to do it once on a file. We also have an ActiGraph view, and for this we actually have a different file. This is a file where a coworker was in Japan and coming back, and his sleep periods were way out of whack. And so at this point you can see whenever he was sleeping a lot easier than normal view, and you can see much easier throughout the days where his sleep has shifted. The other portion of sleep that we have is PLM analysis, and PLM analysis is what's known as periodic leg movement or restless leg syndrome. The usage of PLM is with 2 devices. Each device has to be worn on each leg, which is shown in this picture. This page also gives a lot more information on PLM analysis and how to set it up correctly. So for PLM, I have to have 2 leg AGDs, which I do have here. So I have my left leg and I have my right leg. And then I can click on a sleep period. And ActiLife will show a graph of PLM periods over the set thresholds that are over here, which is the red and blue that you're seeing on the graphs, and a lot more information about the amount of kicks, the abouts, so on and so forth. You can export this report and look at it further. So that is sleep. If you have further questions about that, we'd be more than happy to take them, or you can ask support and we'll be more than happy to give you more information. The very last area in ActiLife is the Data Vault. And Data Vault is pretty much our secure cloud storage. And we created this to allow easier collaboration between users of ActiLife. So if you have a full license and you have other members on your team with light licenses, everyone can see the files that you store on here. We give ActiLife 6 users 4 gigs of storage, which you can add anything you want using this add files, and anybody on your ActiLife license, I guess community or colleagues, license group can see the files. If you need anybody outside of your license group to see files, please contact us and we will easily allow them to see them. So we have quite a bit of data in the data vault currently. You'll notice a lot of AGDs and other test files. And I can go ahead and create a folder in here. And I can add a file. So I'm going to navigate to the download folder that we used before. And I'll upload the 10-second file that we created. And just like that, the file is in the data vault, and anybody else on my license group can see that file, download it, analyze it in their ActiLife, or just download it to the computer and transfer it wherever they need. So if your colleagues need more storage or an easier way to transfer files other than email or any of the other hard-to-use systems, and they have ActiLife, you can use Data Vault. And Data Vault is going to be expanded. We have big plans for it. We're planning on making calculations available on data sets using our servers. So if you want to add files and perform large-scale research or analysis on those files, we will have that in the future. So Data Vault is not just for file storage. Yes. Oh, we also have a webinar that we did, I guess, what, 5 days ago? Oh, 19th. And that should be up on our website right now. So if you want to see more information on Data Vault and what's in the future, it should be on our website at theactigraph.com. And I think we're looking good. Do we have any questions that we need to discuss?
No, there are a lot of great questions in here, and I think I'm going to have to play catch up and handle some of these. May email some people directly to try to cover the ones. So if your question hasn't been answered, then I've seen it, but I've got a few left to answer. So, but now we're at about the 50-minute mark, so we're going to go ahead and finish the presentation for those of you that need to go, and we'll continue to work on these questions afterwards.
Okay, so wrapping it up, we would like to show you what is coming up. Hello. Wow. Come on, PowerPoint.
Click on that in the arrow.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with PowerPoint.
Okay, so just in closing, we wanted to talk about what we're working on right now, coming very soon. By the end of May, is our target for getting this wireless device out. We're excited about the wireless device because of its ability to communicate with additional sensors, blood pressure cuffs, scales, heart rate monitors. The heart rate monitor in particular, I see even questions today about heart rate. We also are working on an iPhone app so that you can communicate and administer the devices or your device inventory. You could do initialization, a basic real-time snapshot of how much activity data is on the device. So we're really excited about that too. So this is the kind of things we're working on right now, and as always, we're working on ActiLife. So, and I saw a lot of questions today about wear time validation, data scoring. Not a day goes by that we're not talking about those things. We may even I can see us doing another webinar specifically on those in the future, based on your feedback. And other than that, I want to thank everybody. I promise you we will get to your questions if we haven't already, and we'll just be responding via email. So once again, we have a great support staff here. So there's a link at the bottom of this slide, support at the ActiGraph. You can email in and say, hey, I got a question, or I was at the webinar and I need some clarification on something. So, feel free to ask us even after this webinar. Just we want the feedback. So, all right, and please take that survey for us as well, and have a great day. Thank you very much for attending today.